The world of cycling is a cruel beast. Riders are having to perform at the highest level in all different kinds of environmental conditions. Especially hot weather, riders are having to work their bodies at overtime just to be able to compete at the highest level. So how do those top riders cope? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how they deal with it. So when preparing for hot weather cycling, all you need is a pair of your mum's old stockings and some ice. And I'm going to leave my mum's old stockings exactly where they are, and I'm going to use a pair of GCN socks. You then fill it with copious amounts of ice and pop it under your jersey. And what this will do is cool the blood that sits under the skin, transport it around the body, and hopefully cool you down. Well, in theory. Now this method works perfectly during a pre-ride or even mid-ride. But a step up from this is a full-blown ice vest, and you may have seen it on the Tour de France, but it's a vest coated in ice to cool their body temperature down before they go out and race in those hot temperatures. But they're expensive and they're heavy, and to be honest, no cyclist wants to weigh themselves down. Okay, there's nothing we can do about changing the weather once we're out the door, but what we could do is prepare in the days, weeks, and even months leading up to an event. In years gone by, riders used to wrap up really warm on their train rides or on even the hottest of the days so they could kind of compensate for the weather that they'll be experiencing later on. They even used to kind of put the temperatures up in their living rooms or even kitchens to simulate that same temperature. They even used to get on their trainers, surround themselves with heaters and sweat it out for hours and hours on end. Luckily though, this uncomfortable and potentially costly approach is no longer the only recognised way to prepare for hot weather. Scientific studies done by Professor Neil Walsh have concluded that simply having a bath after physical exercise will reduce your body temperature in hot weather by a staggering 4.9%. Incredible to think that next time you take a bath, well, it could be part of your training. Yeah, don't know where you guys are going. In 2019, we are really lucky because, well, cycling clothing's made up of a whole array of different materials. I mean, you can even get jerseys that are so lightweight that you can get sunburn through them. Now, Lycra is known for being a material that does hold in the warmth, but you can get a Lycra that is made up of a different composition. And if you're doing a lot of riding in the heat, then getting one of these lightweight jerseys may be a worthy investment. Have you ever thought about being a little more imaginative when it comes to riding in peak summer? I mean, I always used to ride the same roads on the same routes in open land, and it was great for doing efforts and general riding, but when it came to getting really hot, I mean, it was unbearable some days. Until a local then said, well, why don't you plan your route to riding in forests or through woods? That way you're sticking to the shelter. And do you know what? He was right. So when it gets really hot, picking roads that stick into the shades or even valleys or following rivers, that way you'll be getting away from that burning furnace that is the summer sun and hopefully finding it a little cooler during the summer days. So we've touched on pre-cooling your body temperature, but also the same for your drinks too. You can pop one in your fridge and one in your freezer. That way you've got some cool liquids on the bike when you're out in the hot weather. But do ensure that you don't run out of liquids if you've only got your frozen one left. If you are though struggling to defrost it, then it's worth putting it down your jumper or in your jersey pocket. That way you'll cool your body temperature and defrost your bottle. An often forgotten tip is the inclusion of some sunscreen, so make sure you apply it if you do see the burning heat above you. That way it will protect your skin. But if you are a big sweater like myself, then make sure you reapply it because, well, it might sweat off. When it comes to choosing your mid-ride snack, you could go for something a little bit different and maybe prepare some frozen grapes. Put them in your bottle, and that way it cools your bottle down, but also you've got a nice snack. But you could do that with gels or even a banana. Pop them in the freezer, in your back pocket, and they're good to go. When it comes to stopping, you've got to be quite choosy. Don't do what's convenient, do what's beneficial. So find somewhere where you can stop and sit under shade, because the last thing you want to do is sit and bake in the sun. Maybe find a stream that you can cool yourself off in. Make sure there's free water, so then you can hydrate. And also, a bit of shade. I mean, I found a nice tree. In extreme cases though, it is worth keeping an eye on that heart rate. So get yourself a heart rate monitor, that way you can keep an eye on your numbers. A heart rate monitor is a really good way to gauge your effort, but don't be afraid if it's a little higher than usual. That is because your body is trying to cool itself down and work that little bit harder during the hot weather. Now, I hope this video has helped you cope with the hot weather cycling that little bit better. If you have enjoyed it, then make sure you give it a big thumbs up. And for more how-to videos, click on screen now. I'm off for an ice cream.